Israel's strike on Iran highlights its ability to evade Tehran's air defenses. The strike on Iran on Friday was originally intended to be much broader in scope, but after intense pressure from allies, Israeli leaders agreed to ratchet it down. Israel abandoned plans for a much more extensive counterstrike on Iran after concerted diplomatic pressure from the United States and other foreign allies, and because the brunt of an Iranian assault on Israel soil had been thwarted, according to 3 senior Israeli officials. Israeli leaders originally discussed bombarding several military targets across Iran last week, including near Tehran, the Iranian capital, in retaliation for the Iranian strike on April 13th, said the officials, who spoke on the discussion of anonymity to describe the sensitive discussions. Such a broad and damaging attack would have been far harder for Iran to overlook, increasing the chances of a forceful Iranian counterattack that could have brought the Middle East to the brink of a major regional conflict. In the end, after President Biden, along with the British and German foreign ministers, urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to prevent a wider war, Israel opted for a more limited strike on Friday that avoided significant damage, diminishing the likelihood of an escalation, at least for now. Still, in the view of Israeli officials, the attack showed Iran the breadth and sophistication of Israel's military arsenal. Instead of sending fighter jets into Iranian airspace, Israel fired a small number of missiles from aircraft positioned several hundred miles west of it on Friday, according to the Israeli officials and 2 senior Western officials briefed on the attack. Israel also sent small attack drones, known as quadcopters, to confuse Iranian air defenses, according to the Israeli officials. Military facilities in Iran have been attacked by such drones several times in recent years, and on several occasions Iran has said it did not know who the drones belonged to, a claim interpreted as Iranian reluctance to respond. One missile on Friday hit an anti-aircraft battery in a strategically important part of central Iran, while another exploded in midair, the officials said. One Israeli official said that the Israeli Air Force intentionally destroyed the second missile once it became clear that the first had reached its target, to avoid causing too much damage. One Western official said it was possible the missile had simply malfunctioned. The official said Israel's intention was to allow Iran to move on without responding in kind, while signaling that Israel had developed the ability to strike Iran without entering its airspace or even setting off its air defense batteries. Israel also hoped to show that it could hit those batteries in a part of central Iran that houses several major nuclear facilities, including an uranium enrichment site at Natanz, hinting that it could have also reached those facilities if it had tried. The Israeli military declined to comment. The path to this attack began on April 1st, when Israel struck an Iranian embassy complex in Damascus, Syria, killing 7 Iranian officials, including 3 senior military leaders. Iran had not retaliated after several similar strikes in the past, leading Israeli officials, they say, to believe that they could continue to mount such attacks without drawing a significant Iranian response. This time proved different. Within a week, Iran began privately signaling to neighbors and foreign diplomats that its patience had reached a limit, and that it would respond with a major strike on Israel, its first ever direct attack on Israeli soil. Israel's intentions changed after Iran attacked, the officials said. The attack was even bigger than expected, with more than 100 ballistic missiles, 170 drones, and some 30 cruise missiles. It was one of the largest barrages of this kind in military history. But Israel's defense, which were coordinated with pilots from the United States, Britain, France, and Jordan, took down most of the missiles and drones, and there was only limited damage on the ground, reducing the need for a swift response. And there were questions about whether Israel should risk taking its focus off defense while the assault was still underway, 2 officials said. The turning point, however, was an early morning phone call between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Mr. Biden, during which the American president encouraged the Israeli leader to treat the successful defense as a victory that required no further response, according to 3 Israeli and Western officials, who described those discussions on the condition of anonymity. Mr. Netanyahu emerged from the call opposed to an immediate retaliation, the Israelis said. After Israel finally carried out its attack early on Friday morning, Iranian officials did exactly that, focusing on the small drones rather than the missiles and dismissing their impact. Officials in Tehran also largely avoided blaming Israel for the assault. That, coupled with Israel's own decision not to claim responsibility for it, helped to reduce the risk of an escalation. The retaliatory attack damaged a defense system near Natanz, a city in central Iran that is critical to the country's nuclear weapons program. An Israeli airstrike on Iran on Friday damaged an air defense system, according to Western and Iranian officials, in an attack calculated to deliver a message that Israel could bypass Iran's defensive systems undetected and paralyze them. The strike damaged a defensive battery near Natanz, a city in central Iran that is critical to the country's nuclear weapons program, according to 2 Western officials and 2 Iranian officials. The attack, and the revelation on Saturday of its target, was in retaliation for Iran's strike in Israel last week after Israel bombed its embassy compound in Damascus. But it used a fraction of the firepower Tehran deployed in launching hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel. The strike on Friday was the latest salvo in a series of tit-for-tat attacks between the 2 countries this month that have heightened fears of a broader regional conflict. But the relatively limited scope of Israel's strike and the muted response from Iranian officials seem to have eased tensions. Iran and Israel have conducted a years-long shadow war, but the conflict intensified on April 1st, when Israeli warplanes killed 7 Iranian officials, including 3 senior commanders, at an Iranian diplomatic compound in Syria, which Israel asserts was used as a military site. Iran responded last week by firing a barrage of drones and cruise and ballistic missiles at Israel, almost all of which were shot down by Israel and its allies. But the strikes nevertheless rattled Israelis. That attack was Iran's first-ever direct assault on Israeli soil, thrusting the country's clandestine warfare, long fought by land, air, sea, and cyberspace, into open view. The Israeli government vowed to respond, even as world leaders and Western allies, including the United States, rushed to de-escalate the situation, urging Israel not to respond in a way that could lead to a regional war. Though Israel's leaders came close to ordering a more extensive attack on Iran, the Friday attack appeared calibrated to send a warning about Israel's military capabilities, but without further raising tensions as Israel continues to fight Hamas in Gaza. The 2 Iranian officials who discussed the Israeli attack said that Israel had struck an S-300 anti-aircraft system at a military base in the province of Isfahan. The officials' account was supported by satellite imagery analyzed by the New York Times, which showed damage to the radar of an S-300 system at the 8th Shikari Air Base in Isfahan. It was unclear precisely what sort of weapon struck the S-300 system. 3 Western and 2 Iranian officials confirmed on Friday that Israel had deployed aerial drones and at least 1 missile fired from a warplane. Previously, Iranian officials had said the attack on the military base had been conducted by small drones, most likely launched from inside Iranian territory. 2 Western officials said that a missile was fired from a warplane far from Israeli or Iranian airspace, and that the weapon included technology that enabled it to evade Iran's radar defenses. The 2 Iranian officials said the military had not detected anything entering the country's airspace on Friday, including drones, missiles, or aircraft. The efforts to ratchet down tensions between Israel and Iran played out as Israel's war against Hamas, now in its 6th month, continued on Saturday with reports of a deadly assault in southern Gaza. The U.S. military, which has previously carried out strikes on Iranian-backed armed groups in Iraq, said in a statement shortly after the attack that it had not participated in strikes on any locations in Iraq. The Israeli military declined to comment.